I'd like to share a grammar lesson with you called Constituents and Construction. Now, this can get very, very technical because there are grammarians who like to really look at the details of grammar. But I want to give it just an overview of what are constituents and construction based on grammar. So let's start with this idea of what are constituents? Because when I hear the word constituents, I'm thinking of the people who are voting, the people who reside in an area and they are members of the public and they will be voting for people to represent them in government. That's what my first idea is when I hear constituents. But yet within grammar, it is the components. Just as the people are the part of the group, the components or the parts of grammar. It's the components that form to make something, such as you have all the parts that make a bicycle. You have all the parts that can make a salad. Those would be all the constituents, all those pieces together to form one thing. Now, this can happen within grammar because you have all those pieces that are brought together to form sentences. Now, construction is that building of something. You can construct your sentences. There is a method that you usually follow. You have like a set formula that you use, a predictable order. You just can't put words anywhere you want. Maybe sometimes in poetry, but generally you just don't put the words wherever. There is an order to everything. Now, let's look at this idea. If there is a house that is going to be built, you want to use all those constituents, all those pieces. You want a foundation, you need walls, you need a roof. And of course, you're going to need doors and windows and rooms and everything to build a house. So you need those constituent pieces to help build the house. Now, some pieces are much more important than others because the ornate pieces that you like decorate around a window, that's extra. It's not necessary to make it the best of just the basic house. There's extra pieces in it to it. So just as we do with our sentences, we add extra to give more detail. Now, when there is construction, you usually build up. You start with your foundation and then you build up to build your house, to build your bicycle, because maybe that little bell that goes ding, 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 ding on your bicycle is an extra piece of those constituents that build a bicycle. Now we can look at this also with our sentences that we use in grammar. Now, the constituents of the sentences can be broken down in analyzing them. That you have your noun phrase and you'll have your verb phrase. Now, your noun phrase will have these constituents. You will have determiner, you might have an adjective, you'll have your noun that might even be a pronoun. So of the two constituents that make a sentence, you have these constituents that'll make the noun phrase. Here are your constituents that make a verb phrase, and you can construct your verb phrase as you need to. You definitely need a verb, and the verb that you use will determine if it is past, present, or future. And then you need most likely an object, which can be direct or indirect, or you might have both in your sentence. You can use some adverbs to add more detail to your sentence. You might use prepositional phrases to add more detail to your sentence. So therefore, just knowing that having your noun and your verb are going to be your basic foundation of constructing your sentence. Now, all these other pieces, all these other constituents add detail to your sentences. So let's look at this idea. Here's a basic sentence. A child plays. A child plays. Well, here's the noun phrase, a child. Here's the verb phrase, plays. Now, the verb phrase only has one word, just the verb. But yet, if we look at the constituent of that verb, well, you've got play, and then you have the S that's added on to indicate that it's a third person in the present tense. Now, your noun phrase has two constituents. It has a determiner, which is an article, and it has the noun. So together, these will be constructing to build your sentence. Now, you can change the pieces. You can add more details to it, adding those other pieces that would be other pieces of construction of the constituents. You might add a prepositional phrase to indicate where this child is playing. You might add an adverb to determine how the child is playing. So it's interesting that you can take just a basic constructed sentence and you can add more detail to add those pieces that we call constituents. Now, here's another basic sentence. Alfredo asks a question. Now, this time the noun phrase is just one word. It's a proper noun, a name of a person, Alfredo. Now, if we're going to look at the verb phrase, now you've got the verb and you have a direct object. And if you look at the constituents of that direct object, you've got the article and you have a noun. So you can build your sentences. Now, in doing this, you will use a specific order to build your sentences. And sometimes the order can be changed and it will still make sense in the sentence. But if you take these 5 words to construct a sentence, you're going to want to put them in order to make the best sense. Because if you put them in this order and say it in that way, people are going to go, okay, you've got the pieces, but they're not in order. Rides fast, he bike his. No, you're going to need to build that noun phrase. Put in that pronoun, he. Start with that one. You might be thinking, well, bike is a noun. Can bike go there? Maybe it could, but you can try and put the pieces in. Now let's build that verb phrase. You need a verb. Well, where's the verb? Rides. You're going to need a direct object, which will include a personal pronoun and a noun. Oh, there's his and bike. And then that adverb of fast. How is he doing that? So you can put the pieces all in order to make sense. He rides his bike fast. That will make the most sense because that is the constructed order of building your sentences with all these constituent pieces. I hope this makes sense.